Hey guys, breaking news. OpenAI destroyed a bunch of the training data that they used to train ChatGPT 3. Shocker. Who could have seen that coming? Here's the story that just happened last week if you guys are paying attention. So OpenAI is being sued by everybody under the sun at this point. So the state of California, they're being sued by New York Times, they're being sued by the Authors Guild and many others because the claims, what companies are realizing that have copyright protection or intellectual property, they're realizing that OpenAI took their data, trained ChatGPT, then destroyed the training data. So that there was no trace of how they train these models, but you can't train models on protected IP or on copyrighted information. That's not legal, guys. So this is the problem that we have with the internet on steroids, which is what I keep saying. In the second generation of the internet, which started around 2001, 2002, I call it the dawn of this period of the internet. To me, was really AdWords. That was the first crazy product that started to generate billions of dollars, or millions at first, but nobody was making money on the internet in the beginning. So when Google launched AdWords, that to me was really the dawn of like the first time that we saw for certain that the ad revenue model was going to be the primary business model of the internet. So around that time, the playbook became, let's make a sticky app for free. We won't charge anyone for it, but we will be getting their data. We can sell that data to advertisers, because if you can know what somebody is searching for online, then you can sell that data to manufacturers of products and service providers. That gives them way more information than they would have gotten from just knowing what address your TV was purchased in, which is what they used to use. Okay, so that was the model that we had for the last 20 years. Things have changed now. AI is that model on steroids. So they now have to get your data to have any kind of a product. And it turns out they're not just taking free data, public data, which refers to the data that you enter like on Facebook, on your Facebook page, anything, like on YouTube, on these apps, like that's public data stuff that you're just putting on platforms. But now what's happening is all these companies are going, no, OpenAI, you can't just become an $100 billion company. This is the problem. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is decentralized AI versus centralized AI. Why decentralized AI is a much better alternative to centralized AI. This is one of those reasons. And if you like this stuff, share, like, subscribe, please. It helps my algorithmic overlords let me know that I am worthy of your attention. So without any further ado, let's talk about the 5 phases of AI development. First of all, you need a heck of a lot of data. That's why OpenAI is stealing it from everyone else around the planet. You need data aggregation. Then you have to feed that data into a model. So at first, you're practicing with the model, you're writing code that sets up parameters around what the model can do, should do, and should not do. Okay? That takes some refinement. Then you have to refine the model, right? So that's kind of like 4 stages that I just listed. You've got data aggregation, clean up the data, then you've got to build the model, refine the model, and the final stage is called inference. Inference occurs when you've deployed a model for public use, and the model is now using the parameters that you gave it to generate completely new responses. So ChatGPT, for example, was built to be a conversational model. There are things that it can do, there are things that it can't do. But when I go on ChatGPT and I prompt it to give me an answer, the answer it gives me is called inference. That's a brand new answer, right? It's probably never given that to anybody else before. It's based completely on my prompt. So now what's happening, just so you understand, is that I gave my IP to the model. It then meshed with my IP using its own IP and created this whole new thing. That inference is also going back to OpenAI. So they get the benefit from those insights as well. So these are the 5 stages of AI development. Now, in the current centralized infrastructure, Google's Gemini and OpenAI and Microsoft Bing and Anthropic and Claude and all these other ones, Grok, they're basically keeping all the data. So there are some protections for users, people like you and me, in place so that not just any company with an idea for a new model can do that. But then they train their model in private, and we don't know what they're actually training it to do. We don't know if they're putting the parameters in place that would stop that model from hacking another nation state or hacking a bunch of individual users or hacking a grid and shutting power down. When people say that AI can end humanity, this is what they're talking about. You have to be really careful when you're training an AI model to make sure you think through all the possible ways that the AI model might try to achieve the set objective, right? So conversational models should be pretty safe because all this model is supposed to do is have a chat with users like you and me. ChatGPT sounds really harmless. But as we get more advanced use cases and as the public starts to interact and demand more from OpenAI and Microsoft and Google about the kind of models they want, you're increasing the risk that a parameter would not have been thought through. That someone somewhere on that team of however many people at that centralized company didn't fully think of how to stop this model from doing something harmful to humans. More than that, you do have open source AI. This is how OpenAI started. That's why it has open in the name. But what OpenAI did was kind of out of this, I don't want to call it a cheater's playbook, but it's the playbook of getting ahead in Silicon Valley. If you're behind technologically, if your company is behind some of the incumbents or the leaders, you can open source your development. And what that allows is for developers all over the world to play with your model or build out model features for you and to help you actually build up the use case for it. And then OpenAI did a really tricky thing. Once they had something that was workable and they had pathway to a viable product, they closed it and not open anymore. And some of the early contributors got paid a huge sum of money and a pat on the back. Some of them are still there, some left, but the playbook is when you're behind, open source it, and then when you actually get a viable product and you can compete in the market, close it up, put IP around it, put a company behind it with shareholder responsibility, and now you've got the green light to productize it. So that's what OpenAI did. OpenAI should be called closed AI, and this is where we're at today. Now, the last piece that they're also gathering, so they're getting data. Sometimes they've already got apps, like for example, Google has search. They get a lot of data from search. So they use their search data, which they technically have ownership rights over, to feed their model. So this is why Google was pretty much the main AI shop in the global industry of AI for 10 years. DeepMind and Google Brain. This is where all the top researchers were going. They were the only ones making any kind of headway until OpenAI came around. It's important to understand that the data aggregation, model building, and model distribution or inference is all currently centralized. Each company is doing those three pieces on their own. And they also get to keep all the insights and all the valuable data that comes from the inference to enhance their models and get even more of a lead in the market. Let's talk about decentralized AI. So, in decentralized AI structure works like this. You aggregate data, but that data is encrypted first. So you don't actually get to see the raw underlying data. There are several companies working on this now. So getgrass.io is a great example. They're using decentralized storage to create an AI storage network. You've got OORT, which is a really hot crypto project doing the same thing, decentralized storage for data aggregation to feed AI models. The layer that they need on top of that is an encryption so that nobody actually sees the raw data. So even though they're aggregating the data, they don't see the raw data about you. They don't see the contents of your social media posts or your geolocational activity, where you go, where your kids go to school, what time of day you go to work, your email contents, your messaging contents, all this stuff. They don't get to see it. Then they train their models in an open, not open source, but it's in an open architecture whereby you have model builders that are paid in tokens to build models. Then you have validators that validate those models, and these validators can be anybody. So if you're a dev, if you're a developer, you can build the models, that's great. You can also do that in centralized AI. But in decentralized AI, people like you and me or small businesses can run a validator, which means we can use a node, which is a computer basically, that validates the accuracy of the model's output and also validates how it's being built. So making sure that we're not missing any parameters that would make that particular model try to, hack China's grid and cause World War III, right? So that's really powerful too. In decentralized AI, you've got checks and balances. You also allow for thousands and thousands, if not millions of people to participate in the building of these models. That's really important for another reason. Biases. When you're training a model, the biases of the model trainer are going to be in the model, okay? So if you believe, for example, that everyone not born in your country is a bad person, you can build those parameters into your model, right? Any bias that you have, if you believe that everyone who is right-leaning is a bad person, you can build that into your model. Anyone who's left-leaning politically is a bad person, you can build that into your model. Actually, that's exactly the kind of model we have because we can see that ChatGPT, OpenAI, does not give balanced results when talking about candidates from the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party. It's very biased. So what we can do if we decentralize model validation is we get to decentralize what truth is. So think about the first few times you used search. When you were searching the internet, maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you just got a bunch of results and it was really annoying because they didn't really hit. But the only thing you ever really had to learn to work with was SEO. So in the beginning of SEO, the first 5 hits would say sponsored, and they almost always weren't what you needed. SEO's gotten better sometimes because sponsored ads are better matched to the user because Google has a heck of a lot of data about you, and so they can find out more what you like. But other than that, you're not seeing a ton of bias. Now that's starting to change. We know that organizations like the World Economic Forum are working hand in glove with Google to try to make their version of climate science hit earlier on in your list of hits. They want you to see their version of what they think is happening in the world versus anyone else's version. This is one organization, unelected people, saying that when people search something, they should get a certain kind of result. It should be hard for them to find another kind of result. So they're centralizing what truth is, right? And famously, the ex-CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, is kind of on board with this as well. So some really powerful people in the world believe that we should have centralized truth and that everyone else should just follow along. I tend to think that if you're trying to centralize truth, you're afraid of people thinking for themselves and learning for themselves and coming to conclusions on their own. So to me, it just doesn't sound like the best way forward. But that's just me. Now, the other really powerful effect that happens in decentralized AI is that the inference also now can feed out to not just the model builder, but that inference, which is valuable IP, can be used for other model builders to build other models. So you have a very competitive landscape. You've got way more models that can be generated. I mean, right now, the models that we have are mostly conversational, and it's only a handful of them that we have. But imagine if every developer in the world was able to build models of use and have those models become safe and secure, because there were a number of people that were decentralizing what the parameters should be, that were commenting and inputting on what the parameters of those models should be. And also, the economic rewards for these networks are far more distributed. They're not funneling back up to one company. Model builders get paid, model validators get paid, and people that own the token of the network that aren't even participating in model creation also get paid. Because if you have more models coming out of a specific network, like Solana or Ethereum, the token price is going to go up. So more people can own that token. So this decentralized AI is a way to make AI safer, to develop it more equitably so that millions of people can participate in it. And one last thing I want to say about that, Stable Diffusion founder Imad Mostak stepped down a month ago from the company he founded, that he was very passionate about. You might not have heard about Imad, but he's kind of an OG and a hero in the crypto space. He's one of the brightest minds in the world in crypto. And he stepped down from the company he founded. It was very bittersweet. But he did it because he was concerned about the way it's being developed. And he said, his words, not mine, probably the most safe way for AI to be developed should be in a decentralized manner. Why should a handful of companies and unelected think tanks be deciding the future of humanity? Which in some ways they are with AI. It's an incredibly powerful technology. So there's a great podcast with him and Peter Diamandis. I can maybe link it up in the comment section if you haven't seen it. But I think his words were powerful. He also recommended that every country should have their own AI that is owned by the people and that works for that in the best interest of that country. Some thoughts. But overall, decentralized AI is safer, it's more equitable, it untaps billions and billions of dollars of economic value that can be distributed to small businesses and individual users instead of just 2 or 3 companies. So if you guys like decentralized AI versus centralized AI, if that sounds better to you, leave a comment and let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're on board. If you have any questions about this, also leave some comments. Again, the algorithm likes it if you interact with me. So thanks guys for showing up, and tune in next week for more about owning your data.
TAO of Data.